Today is January 15th, 1936, and I would be interviewing Mr. Albert Fish, also known as the Brooklyn Vampire, the Werewolf of Wisteria, and the Gray Man. Greetings, Mr. Fish. How are you today?
Fine, thanks.
Mr. Fish, can you please describe your childhood and your family?
I was born in Washington, D.C. in May. My mother's name is Ellen, and she was Scottish Irish American. My father's name was Randall, and he was 43 years older than my mother. My three siblings are Walter, Annie, and Edwin. Everyone in my family had a mental illness, and I spent a lot of time in an orphanage, St. John's Orphanage.
Why were you in the orphanage?
My mom put me there after my father died when I was 5. She wasn't able to take care of me.
Tell me about your experiences in the orphanage.
I was there till I was nearly 9, and that's where I got started wrong. We were unmercifully whipped. They would hurt us all the time and would encourage us to hurt each other as well. They would always beat me, so I began to like the pain. I enjoyed it. The caretakers were merciless. They would make us do messed up things like force us to masturbate in front of the other children. The beatings were, they were brutal.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Fish. Tell me, how did your experiences there affect you?
That place ruined my life, sir. It's what led me to eventually start to enjoy sticking needles into myself.
Can you be specific?
I would put the needles around my scrotum area and anus areas.
Oh, yes. It was shown in that picture taken of your pelvis not too long ago. That picture showed that there were 29 needles embedded into the area. Why did you enjoy doing that, Mr. Fish?
I liked the pain, and it would turn me on.
So it seems, because of your experience at the orphanage, you associated pain with pleasure.
Correct.
Did you wet the bed at any point in your life?
I wet the bed until I was 11 years old.
And did you have any type of head injuries or anything?
Yes, not too long after being reunited with my mother, I fell from a cherry tree that I climbed. I got severe head trauma and headaches, and I was also dizzy a lot.
Now, about the orphanage. When exactly did you leave it?
My mom got a job in the government and she was able to take me back from the orphanage.
Do you think that you wouldn't have gone this way in life if you were never in the orphanage in the first place?
I don't think I can really say, but I probably would have ended up this way because, everyone thinks I'm insane. They think my family isn't normal either, but nobody knows everything, right?
I understand. Tell me about your first relationship.
I was 12, I met this boy, and it was him who introduced me to drinking pee and eating poop.
Well, let's talk about school. Did you graduate high school?
Yes, I did. After I graduated when I turned 15, I changed my name from Hamilton to Albert.
Can you tell me one thing about high school? Anything at all?
Good or bad?
Whichever. Something significant or that you will always remember.
Well, my original name was Hamilton Fish, and so people would call me Ham and Fish, and that's why I changed my name to Albert.
Can you give us a description of your work history?
After I moved to New York in 1890, I became a male prostitute and then started to molest boys. I was a house painter, which would help me lure children from home and torture them. Being a house painter gave me the opportunity to be in places. My favorite things to do when torturing them is to use this paddle that I had that was laced with sharp nails, and then I would rape them.
Can you explain to us about your first victim?
My first victim was not killed, but it was this retarded boy in Delaware. I stabbed him.
Who were the victims that you were aiming for?
I tried to aim for African Americans and the mentally handicapped. Most of my victims were young boys, mostly under 6.
Why did you select them, and where and how did it happen?
I believed the police would spend less time searching for the killer of African American children than the killer of Caucasian children. They wouldn't be missed anyways. The same goes for the mentally handicapped. I would torture, mutilate, and murder my victims with my implements of hell, which were a meat cleaver, a butcher knife, and a small hand saw. I usually would rape my victims and spank them so their meat is tender for me to eat.
What was your motivation?
There was an incident in which one of my male lovers took me to a waxworks museum where I was fascinated by a bisection of a penis. After that, I became obsessed with sexual mutilation and I found pain pleasurable as well as the pain of others. I love hearing the horror and looks on their faces as I hurt them. I love the taste of human meat. I made a stew out of a victim's ears, nose, pieces of his face, and belly. I put onions, carrots, turnips, celery, salt, and pepper, and it was good. It was really good. I never ate any roast turkey that tasted half as good.
What was the nature of your crimes? How did you kill your victims?
I would stab them, sometimes strangle them, cut their body parts, and sometimes cook them to eat.
How many people would you admit to killing?
I admit to killing 5 people, but I know I've molested at least 400 kids. I have them in every state.
Tell me about the first crime that pops up in your head right now.
Francis McDonald. He was this boy I saw in the park. I took him away and assaulted and strangled him with his own suspenders. I hanged him in a tree without any of his flesh left on his left leg.
Were you ever diagnosed with a mental disorder? If so, which ones? Did you ever receive treatment?
Yes, I had auditory hallucinations, but I never really got treatment.
Can you describe how you were eventually captured?
I got caught because of a letter I sent to Delia Budd, who is the mother of the girl I've killed, Grace Budd. It led to a 6-year investigation, and the police were led to me by the letter in which I described the series of events in the cannibalism and murder of her.
Were you sentenced to life in prison or did you receive the death penalty?
I tried to plead to insanity, but I was sentenced to die by electrocution.
When are you scheduled to be electrocuted?
Well, today is the 15th of January, so tomorrow is the day I die.
And which prison are you residing in at the moment?
Sing Sing Prison in New York.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Fish, for your time and cooperation.